Hello, friends. Welcome to the Archer and Olive YouTube channel. If you're new, please consider subscribing to this channel because it's a really fun one. Not only do you get to find out about all of the new things coming from Archer and Olive, but you get to hang out with a bunch of different creators that use Archer and Olive products in different ways. Today, you guys get to hang out with me in a good old-fashioned setup video. My name is Elizabeth, and I'm an ambassador this year. You can find me at The Joyful Sojourn on Instagram and here on YouTube as well. Today, I'm going to be setting up a 2-page spread, which will cover memory keeping for one whole month. This is for those of you that are caretakers that don't have a ton of time to scrapbook every day or to scrapbook every week. And you want to have one place consolidated where you can log the most memorable moments for the month. In this B6 journal, I do that for my daughter, Esther. She's 2 years old. And someone gave me the idea in the fall. Instead of buying birthday cards for her every year or Christmas cards, write down what you would write in the card down in the journal. And then collectively over the years, all of the things you would say to her in a card will be in one place. And then that way you can hand it to her when she comes to an age that you feel like she would appreciate it. And she has memories all in one book instead of a giant box of cards. And so that is what this journal has become. So if you're a caretaker, whether it's a parent or a grandparent, a godparent, or you are responsible for the lives of littles, then this might be a really fun way to do easy memory keeping and to have something that you can pass on to the next generation. So we are going to set up the month of February, and this is where I'm going to log all of the things that Esther does and says this month. So let's go ahead and get this guy open. I picked the B6 size because I have pregnancy-induced carpal tunnel and it hasn't gone away. I'm not pregnant anymore, but pregnancy brought it on, and I have found that I really can't do as much writing as I used to. And so having a B6 size journal or even a pocket size journal really removes a lot of the pressure that I feel to write as much as possible. And I still have room to decorate, but I'm not having to fill in an entire page with writing. So I love this size, and it's not going to take up a lot of space. So what I'm going to do is create a simple spread that I can go back to over the course of the month and just write down little things that happened. When you get it set up at the beginning of the month, it's good to go. You can set it and forget it, and all you're doing is writing things down. If you have a bigger journal, you absolutely could print out photos and glue them down. I do have photos further back in this guy, but for the month of February, I want to do something clean and simple. Tools really are entirely up to you, but I grabbed some of my favorite colors of calligraphs. I think these are going to be really pretty for February, following along the kind of Valentine's Day theme. I also grabbed my 2 stencils from Archer and Olive. These are some of my favorite, well, these are my favorite stencils. I'll just say that. The B5 stencil is actually my absolute favorite because I love the way that it overhangs on the smaller journals, the A5 and this B6. But they are different. So if you already have the A5, it might be worth getting the B5 as well because the cutouts that you have, the stencil shapes are different. So I might take some of the boxes over from the A5 stencil and then maybe just draw my lines in with the B5. So we're going to use stencils today. And then I have stamps, a variety of different stamps. You don't have to use stamps. You could doodle, you could collage. It really doesn't matter. Just think about how much time you have and make it work with the time that you have. If you are busy like I am with a toddler, with a job, do this as simply as possible, but at least do it because you will never regret going back and seeing the memories that you've written down for your little. You won't. So it's worth taking the 20 minutes or the 30 minutes to do something creative so that you have these memories for a lifetime. The stamps that I've grabbed are some decorative stamps to begin with. So these are from the antique floral collection. And then this was the vintage camera collection of stamps. I did grab some different size alpha stamps. These are from Carrie Bradford's studio and the Ton. These are both really great stamp companies. And so I grabbed some alphas. We're going to play with stamps and pens today. One more note about stamps. If you're new to the stamping world and you start with a stamp set from Archer and Olive. Not only do you get the stamps, but they come with an acrylic block and an ink pad. So if you don't have any other stamping supplies in that one stamp set, you're going to have everything that you need. So I'm going to come from the perspective that I'm brand new with stamps and all I have is one stamp set from Archer and Olive. And I'm going to show you how to use different colors. Your calligraph pens can be used for stamping. All you would do is paint on or draw on the color onto the stamp and make your impression. So I have deep lavender, said that kind of funny, deep lavender. I have mauve pearl, and I have rosemary. And I'm going to use these three colors on my stamps and make my impressions on the paper. So I have a variety of different colors without having to purchase ink pads. I really like the way the calligraphs look on stamps because you get that distressed look because they're so liquidy and they separate a little bit. They look very vintage on the paper and it's really, really pretty. Just make sure that you give it several seconds to dry so that it doesn't smear. But once it's set, it's set, and these are not going to bleed through your paper. Whether you're stamping a header or you are handwriting it with a brush pen, definitely change out the font types. That's what adds so much fun playfulness and dimension. I used this simple tall sans serif font to spell out Esther. I've got the word this, which I'm going to stamp down. And then I want to put the month that this memory keeping page is about, and it's February. And I'm going to change up the font to this one, which is still a sans serif font, but it's different. And it's just going to add a little bit more play. And it's going to work really well when we start adding some of the Archer and Olive decorative stamps. So let's keep going with the header. All right, the header is set up. I'm feeling really good about that. Now we just need to add some structure so that over the course of the month, when things happen or Esther says something funny, I just have a box that I can write it in. So let's go ahead and get to that. Went ahead and laid down some washi tape to cover up the header. That's so as I navigate around drawing in my boxes and adding additional decorative stamps, the writing is going to be preserved. I'm not going to end up overlapping anything. Washi tape is so great for decorative planning, creative journaling, junk journaling, but it's also a really great tool when you're wanting to use other mediums and you want to protect different areas of your page. So don't be afraid to use this. For the longest time, I was afraid I would waste washi using it in this way, but I can't possibly go through all the washi that I have. And this is just a great way to use your stash and to create some really fun looks. So now we're going to get to the actual functional part of this spread, and that's creating the boxes that will be for memory keeping. By creating the boxes in advance, it just means that as things come up, as Esther says something funny or does something funny, I can open this up and just write it in the box and it's done. So the key really is creating that structure now so that memory keeping through the month is easy. All you're doing is writing down a sentence or two. I'm going to use the A5 Archer and Olive stencil to create some of my boxes. You don't need to use this, but it does help if you just want to be able to draw in a square, easy peasy. You can also just use any ruler and create a straight edge with it, connecting dots together. You know how big your handwriting is. You know how frequently you'll be able to get back into your journal to write things down. So the boxes should vary in size based on how much you write and how many things you want to include in your monthly page. And I'm just going to go um, wonky. So when I say wonky, I mean my boxes are going to be at different angles across the page. I'm going to use this pen. This is a Sarasa Mark-On. It's the 0.4. I'm going to draw a circle first because I think this medium circle is going to be a perfect fit for the vintage camera stamp that I have. I'm going to take a box and put it partway through the circle and start drawing the box on the outside of the circle, just like that. So here you can see we've created a little shape. and I've got room to write, and then I'm going to use one of these stamps from the vintage camera stamp to kind of set the tone for what that box is going to be about. I really like the size of that box, but we're going to change it out. If I did a box wonky this way, then the ones around it, I'm going to go wonky the other way. And that is just to kind of keep things interesting, just going back and forth. Some of them I'll do that circle with the stamp, and some of them I won't. I also want to change out the different ways that they are oriented. So we've got some horizontal boxes. Now let's do some vertical. And I think I want to have another circle box, or circle with the box. And I want to do a little bit of overlapping here just to create a little bit more dimension, just like that. And we've got this kind of cool little stacked look to it. I'm going to come over here and do some of the same thing, playing around with angles. I think I want to do one more circle for that circle stamp, the vintage camera circle stamp. So we'll do that one, and then position this guy, draw out this box, and go to about there. And when we lift off this washi tape, you'll see that this is going to go right up against the word Esther, or Esther's name. All right, so we've made our boxes, but now I want to add a decorative element to it. And the vintage camera stamps are nice because you've got like the opportunity to do some layering with the vintage cameras. And then you have these in the center that are like headers. This week, notes, the story, today. This is just a black one to do, in focus, and weekend. And so I'm going to take a couple of these and just play with it a little bit. Let's go with the story and put that in the bigger box. For the sake of consistency, I'm going to use deep lavender, and I'm going to color in that stamp so that we have a little more color being added. I could just do the straight black. That would add a real nice punch, but I don't know, I'm kind of feeling these softer colors. So I've got, it doesn't look like there's any ink on it, but there is. I'm just going to stamp this right in the center of that circle, like that. Ooh, cute. I love the way that looks. Because this is February, I feel like it needs a little something pretty, a little romantic. So I'm going to take the antique floral stamp set and use black ink to stamp these flowers all around the page. And then, depending on how I feel, I will color in some of the components of the flowers with the pens that I've been using this whole time. And I'm going to speed things up when I do this, but you'll see how I'm going to cover up these boxes with a sticky note so that when I stamp down, we don't get the florals coming inside the box. I want them all to be behind the box. So let's get to stamping. Okay, I think we are ready to take off the washi. And you'll see my stamping is not perfect. I'm still relatively new to stamping and figuring it out. And so if you're new to stamping too, do not worry about it. You'll get better as you go, and just take your time. All right, friends, I removed the washi tape and we can see all the stamping, all of the goodness that has happened here. And it's not perfectly balanced. I have more stamping on this side than this side. There are ink smudges on my fingertips and on the page, but I think that when it comes to creating, and especially if you're creating something for the purpose of memory keeping, don't get lost in perfectionism. Don't get lost in the fact that this got double stamped and now there's a bit of a shadow. Don't get lost in those details, because once you start writing in the story of your life, the story of your child's life, that's what's going to be the most important. You're not really going to be paying attention to the decor of the page. You'll open up the notebook, you'll open up the journal and go, wow, that looks like really pretty, but you're not going to notice those details once the page is filled in. I want to do one more thing and then we're going to call it a setup, and that is add a little bit more color to the stamps. What I loved about lined florals is that you can color it in if you want to. Because I know that these boxes are going to be filled in with black ink from my writing, I don't necessarily want it to be too black of a spread. And so adding color into the lined florals is going to be a way to kind of add a bit more color to it. And then once I start writing, the black will kind of come back in. I'm going to be providing a printable on the Archer and Olive blog, along with a kind of written tutorial of how I did this. The printable on the blog is going to be a page similar to this with some lined florals if you want to color them in, and then there'll be a nice banner right in the center for you to write your child's name. And then you can print it out, write in their name, color in the florals if you want to, and the boxes are going to be pre-made. So it's going to be good to go if you want to just print something out and replicate this in your own planner or your journal. Let's take a look. We're going to go back with the same three colors: deep lavender, mauve pearl, and rosemary. I'm not going to color everything in. I'm just going to do like little pops here and there, just a little bit, like keep it kind of organic. If it goes outside the lines, that's okay. I kind of like the look of the like over drop shadow, if that makes sense. Like I kind of like the look of that. So I'm just filling in like a little bit of green to add a little bit more color so that it keeps its softness. And I'm trying to like leave my hand really loose, like not grip onto the pen too much. That's giving me a little bit more control here. Or not control, it's allowing me to keep light-handed with this. So we're going to have a little bit of a mix, and that's okay. Again, really loose with the pen. All right, and I think I'm going to call this good. Friends, if you have any questions, leave them down below. Come hang out with Archer and Olive over on the blog. You can see a write-up of how this turned out, and that's where you can access the printable. If you haven't subscribed to the Archer and Olive YouTube channel, definitely do that. Oh, I missed a spot. And if you want to hang out with me over at The Joyful Sojourn, you can find me on Instagram and on YouTube as well. And I guess we will see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.